Hi guys, I'm Timothy from Dollars and Cents. This is the first episode of our new show, Conversations with Entrepreneur. We're filming this during circuit breaker, so I hope you're watching it from home. For the first episode, we have with us Dennis Goh. Dennis is the co-founder and the former managing director at HungryGoWhere. So Dennis, welcome to the show.
Hey Tim, thanks for having me. Great to be the first one on board and really glad to be here today.
So Dennis, you co-founded HungryGoWhere in late 2006, just about 1 year before the global financial crisis of 2007-2008 came. Subsequently, the company still did well and was eventually acquired by Singtel in 2012. Dennis, you've since started another company, Light Ventures, which is a company that you started in 2018. So just nice, 1.5 years later, we are in another really bad global financial crisis caused by COVID-19. So our episode today is COVID-19 already worse than the global financial crisis? So my first question to you is, seeing as how you are one of very few entrepreneurs in Singapore that actually started a business about a year before both global financial crisis, I just want to ask, is it just coincidence or do you have a nut for choosing the worst timing?
Well, I can't help it. I'm always excited about starting new companies. I've always had an adventurous spirit, right? I'm constantly trying to make the world better through technology entrepreneurship. We could never have predicted the rise of COVID-19, to be honest. But we did have a sense of danger that the global economy and the jobs market would be in trouble one day. What we didn't expect was that it turned out sooner even than we expected, right?
I mean, COVID-19, obviously, we don't know when it will end. But do you think that it's already worse than what has actually happened in the 2008 global financial crisis?
Oh yeah, for sure. I do think it's worse, much worse than the 2008 GFC. It's one thing to have banks in trouble. Some people no money, but not all. And even with the horrendous growth slowdown then in 2008, the economy was still humming along, right? Slow as it was. But now it's really another thing entirely when people are completely cutting down activities because of fear, or they have to stay at home. It's compulsory to do so. And even if we release everything, right, and people are allowed to go out again, I think they're going to be afraid to socialize, right, and spend even when they have money. So now is even when they have money, they might not spend.
I just want to say, so you are of the opinion that COVID-19, as it is thus far, is already worse than what happened in 2008.
Yes,
and
I actually think it is worse.
And the bigger problem is also that we don't really know how much longer this is going to be and how much worse things can become.
Yes. I think we are really in a very uncertain period. So we all have to be prepared to hunker down, right? And do what we need, right, to help our business survive and kind of, really just be prepared.
Obviously, you are of a strong opinion that, COVID-19 is already worse than what happened in 2008 thus far and will continue to get worse. Can you specify some of these, differences that makes you, in a way, a little bit pessimistic about the situation? Care to elaborate?
Yeah. You know what? As all entrepreneurs, we must never be too pessimistic. So I would say that yes, we have to be realistic, right? We have to be prepared. But we also, of all people, right, as entrepreneurs, we must have a healthy dose of optimism, right? Otherwise, we're completely finished, right? We have to work hard, but at the same time, we have to strongly believe, even in the worst of circumstances. Firstly, the whole economic shock itself, right? It's actually quite shocking to many sectors. 2008 was a surprise, but it was not a complete wipe out, right? For this, like I said earlier, I've never seen such an unprecedented shutdown across countries, right? Virtually the whole world is synchronized in that sense, right? That has led to global demand virtually evaporating overnight for industries such as travel, aviation, hospitality, and many analysts have actually projected that this year could be our worst recession in the last 30 years, right? The second one is really the impact on jobs, right? It's affecting every country. Singapore is no exception, right? Because of the need to manage the cost side. Let me tell you, Tim, that many companies have sent their workers home, right? Furlough, they call it, right? take no pay leave. There's genuine concern among many analysts that if this economic slowdown is prolonged and demand takes too long to come back, retrenchments is the inevitable result, right? Where it will start to rise, companies then seek to conserve cash because it's really fast running out of cash. So that's the second point, right? The economic shock, the jobs. But I want to add this before you start blaming the companies, right? I can only say that if they don't do that and eventually go bankrupt, so this is the reality, right? Jobs will end up being lost anyway, right? So I'm just going back to the Straits Times, there's a report on 9th April saying that already some economists have projected that the number of retrenchments this year could rise up to as high as 150,000 to 200,000 jobs, right? Of which more than half are the affected foreign workers. Now, these are really scary numbers. And even today, right, 27 April, there's a Business Times report that retrenchment this year could hit around 46,000 people, right? Once again, more than half of them affected being foreign workers, right? And actually, the reason why foreign workers are actually, I think, going to bear the brunt of the retrenchment is because of the recent policy measures to safeguard Singaporean jobs. Otherwise, the Singaporean side will be equally bad as well. But this wide range of estimates just goes to show how uncertain we all are of what the final impact on jobs will be this year, right? But we all do agree that it's going to enter record-breaking territory, right? So just to rattle off some numbers, in contrast, there were about 10,700 retrenchments in 2019. The 2001.com bust was around 25,000. The 2008-09 GFC, over 2 years, so this is over 2 years, about 40,000, so about 20,000 per year. And then finally, the one that hit us really badly was the Asian financial crisis, 97, that went all the way up to about 30,000, right? So even we don't know what the number really is this year, but if you're talking about just the range that I've seen so far, 45,000, right, all the way up to 150,000 kind of numbers, these are all record-breaking territory, right? I personally certainly hope that our retrenchment levels don't go up so high, right? But if it really does, then I need to urge everyone, right? And I don't just mean the government, I really mean everyone, right? From the government all the way from the ground up, whether it's individuals, whether it's companies, we all better start rallying together, right? Every little bit counts. That's what I've been telling people, right? To help mitigate the effects of such an enormous economic shock as much as possible. So 2 points already, right?
Can I just, sorry, Dennis, Can I just ask
you,
do you feel like people are not, I mean, this is just a personal opinion, right? Like, do you feel like people are not taking it seriously enough right now? Like they don't, like you mentioned some numbers that were just absolutely shocking for someone who might be hearing for the first time, right? Bankruptcy numbers are way higher than it was back in the GFC. Even with the Asian financial crisis and the GFC, retrenchment numbers are not likely going to be as high as what we are projecting right now. But do you feel like because perhaps this is a health crisis, many of us are stuck at home, some of us obviously more fortunate to have paid, we are working from home, we're still getting paid, that we are not feeling the seriousness of what this pandemic can actually not just affect us from a health care standpoint, but also from a job security standpoint?
I'm very sure that the effects is very disparate, right? It affects different people differently, and you're absolutely right. I think that's where there is a great need for empathy, right? Like there are people who are really badly affected already, right? The freelancers group, for example, right? They were the first to be affected, but yet there also are other groups of people who are not so badly affected. But I think that now everyone kind of takes it seriously already. I think that in general, at the beginning, I think like in February, people were still like kind of like, a bit, I feel a bit complacent, right? They were like, yeah, there's something out there, but life is still pretty much as normal, and I'm not really doing scenario planning and thinking of what's going to happen, right? If this continues, all the signposts and all. But you know what? Yeah, I think now everyone is pretty much, they've realized how serious this impact is.
I mean, it sounds really, we don't want to make this show overly negative. So, I mean, do you see a silver lining somewhere?
Like I said, we as entrepreneurs, we all need to have healthy optimism, right? And the good news is that unlike 2008, I think that today, the community is a lot stronger in the sense that, I mean, I'm not talking about physically, but digitally, right? 2008, we had nothing, right? We couldn't rally the community digitally. We couldn't move that fast, right? Everything was still manual, pretty physical, limited by physical boundaries, existing networks, and how small is that, right? Compared to the vast nature of social media platforms. So the good news now is with the widespread use of social media and deep smartphone penetration, we already see so many local support groups. So that's the next big difference today compared to 2008, right? Is that a lot of support groups have risen up in the last 2 months, as we take it more and more seriously, right? There are a lot of support groups rising up in all the social platforms, your Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, right? Over the last 2 months, especially the last 1 month, right? To support each other, right? So I think that is a very big difference, and I wouldn't underplay this. It's playing a very key role, right? In holding up the morale of all the freelancers out there, right? In saying you are not alone, right? I think in 2008, it would have been a lot tougher, right? And you could feel that you are a lot more alone than now. And finally, the last point, which I think is very important, I want to end off on a very high note, to be honest, is that it's very significant, Tim, that the Singapore government has moved not just quickly to support the economy this time, but the sheer size of it, right, is unprecedented, right, for us to actually draw down so much of our reserves. So just to compare, throw numbers so that I'm not just making anecdotes, right, is that if you recall back in 2008, right, we drew down about 4.9 billion, right? Sounds like a lot. But today, we're actually doing 5 times at least that, right? I'm not sure whether it's even ended, right? At least 21 billion this time around, drawing down from our past reserves, right? So literally, it's a great move because I think what we have saved up for a rainy day is exactly for a storm like this, right? The other thing that's unprecedented is how the government has moved directly to actually support jobs, right? It's literally throwing cash, right, at the employers and say, please don't fire your workers, right? We're going to help subsidize it, especially during the COVID, the whole circuit breaker period, right, where the subsidies for worker salaries is the most generous.
The government, maybe not just the Singapore government, but governments all over the world have been very quick, there's obviously that political discussion about were they too slow, but obviously right now nobody is taking it lightly anymore, and obviously the Singapore government, when you compare the reserves being pumped in, it's at least 5 times more than what they set aside for the 2008 GFC. So clearly it shows the magnitude of the greater problem we now have in 2020, right? All right, thank you, Dennis. Thank you for sharing your thoughts so openly and honestly with us. And just from my team, Dollars and Cents, to your side, continue staying safe. And I hope, Light Ventures obviously continue to grow well even during this period.
Thank you.
And let's all, hopefully we get to see each other soon as well. And once again, thank you for sharing your thoughts.
Thank you, Tim. You stay safe too. Thanks for having me.
So we've come to the end of this talk, but not the end of our discussion. If you have a thought, you have a comment that you would like to share with us, please feel free to leave us a comment on Facebook or YouTube and share with us your thoughts. Stay safe with your family. We hope to see you again soon. Thank you.